Franchises rise and fall like the great empires of the past. Soon as they reach their peak, their place in the world will slowly crumble into memory. Of course, in the world of gaming, remakes and remasters help keep franchises alive, but with so many franchises still essentially forgotten, it's hard not to point them out. One such franchise that's been on my mind that is rightfully due for a comeback: Killzone. Killzone rightfully is due for a big comeback, in my opinion. Now, Killzone is a game franchise that hasn't seen the light of day since 2013. 10 fucking years, my friends. That's a long time. The last two games were Shadowfall and Mercenaries. Shadowfall was pretty much one of the opening games for PS4, while Mercenaries was a game on the Vita. On Vita. Yeah, we don't talk about Vita. Shadowfall to me was alright and pretty well received among gamers, besides the story and, for me, the gameplay, but I'll get to that later. I got introduced to Killzone with Killzone 2, then I played 3, at some point I played Liberation, and then I played Shadowfall. I played the original Killzone through PS Now, and well, my internet wasn't the fucking best, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do to play a game that you feel like it's you want to play the original, right? So fuck it, right? So all in all, I'm pretty familiar with the franchise. I enjoy the hell out of it. Many people did. So what happened? What happened was Killzone was essentially put to rest due to Sony telling Guerrilla Games to focus on a new IP, which became the Horizon series, which is kind of cool. It's pretty nice to kind of see, like, where this came from, but at the cost of a great franchise. Even the studio decided it was the best to let the series rest, as they'd been playing with the same enemy for such a long time. I guess they were burnt out, like, narratively with Killzone and didn't see a point in continuing, since they were pretty much just like, where do we go from here? Honestly, it's understandable if you've been playing the same game for years and just developing it and tweaking it and doing whatever you can to keep it, alive. You'd get tired too. I do think, though, that it would have been interesting if they passed the IP to a smaller studio or another studio of Guerrilla's size to take a crack at the IP. Alright, let's make up a reasonable scenario here. No one fucks with this new studio's Killzone? Cool, we still have the original Killzone. This other studio's Killzone is way better? Cool, but Tom passed the series when that studio runs out of steam. It's honestly, I feel like, it's simple. It just needs a little bit more planning and, etiquette to go ahead and go through. That's just how I feel. I definitely do agree that narratively, Killzone and the direction where it was going after Shadowfall would have been a step in the wrong direction. I think even with Shadowfall, the events that happened after 3 were just nonsensical, as the root of Killzone was just full-scale war that just went absolutely batshit crazy, not just shadow spy wars with two people just trying to go ahead and, I guess, find out what the other is doing and make sure they're not trying to do anything shady, even though this wouldn't have happened if they didn't split down the fucking planet down the middle and gave them a home, which is just, I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird in my opinion. Let's talk about the franchise a little bit. The franchise's success stems from its grim, dark war setting, fighting a force that are essentially superhuman with an incredible... Let's talk about the franchise a little bit. Let's talk about Killzone a little bit, right? The franchise's success stems from its grim, dark war setting, fighting a force that are essentially superhuman with an incredible hatred for you. For that, I have to say,
what do you say fuck me for?
We gotta look into the history of Killzone a little bit. Don't worry, I'll keep it as simple as possible. Now, let me ask you a question. If you bought a piece of land, found massive success on this land, would you be mad if it was taken away from you because you were so damn successful? If you said, yeah, congratulations, you have just went ahead and sympathized just a little bit with the Helgans, the Helgast, I would say, right? I'd be pretty pissed too. Essentially a mega organization built from nations, colonies, and corporations assisted by an alliance called the ISA. I'm not reading their entire name. Like, we all know what the ISA is if you know about Killzone. Took down a company that had full control of a system, Alpha Centauri, that they rightfully paid for. The Helghan company was the most profitable company due to its control over Helghan, the planet, and Vecta, a luxury planet in Alpha Centauri. Because the UCN hated how they got so rich from playing the game better and taxing foreign ships because Alpha Centauri was actually balling, they muscled in after trying to make demands with absolute compliance that they wanted from them because, you know, fuck them. You need to do what we want because we're from Earth and you're from Earth, so you need to do what we want. So the Helghans basically told them to fuck off in the nicest of terms, and seceded. They seceded from the whole colonies, Earth, everything. They were like, we're good. We got our own system. We can deal with whatever we want. Fuck you. Then they went to war. The ISA destroyed the company's forces and took over the system of Alpha Centauri. They basically just got kicked out of their own home. They basically just said, yeah, you were in charge, now we're in charge. Fuck you. And the Helghans were just sent to live on a Helghan. Like the ISA and everybody was just like, here's this most shittiest planet. Fuck you and go ahead and live on it, right? It was shitty. There's no way you can go ahead and say, oh, this and that. No, these people were in their right to do what they want. It didn't make it much better that, you know, the ones who won started to live on Vecta. And even with the Helghans that were living there, they were sent to Helghan because of a minority who were being terrorists, which was immediately just fucked up, in my opinion. So, through all of this, the Helghans' hate for Vectans, the ISA, the UCN, was born. Because of their weakness militarily, they failed to defend their home, which caused the people of Helghan to adopt a more militaristic approach to, you know, their people, which caused them to have a dictatorship and, you know, a more sort of like, you know, the strong eats the weak and, you know, the strong will forever, you know, be more powerful than anything sort of mindset. And, you know, that's how we got the Helghast today. With a strong leader with the Helghast, that being Scholar Vizari, they attacked Vecta. But they got repelled off by you, the player, Jan, in Killzone 1. Regardless of anything, Helghan got hoed. Like, plain and simple. I can understand their hate, which is cool to see that, you know, this hate drive them to do the most heinous shit. It's nice to see, like, you know, the consequences of another people's actions being that these guys came with a vengeance to come fuck them up. It's actually pretty cool to see. It's great storytelling that this was just, you know, just how the war was, because there's really no one in the right here. If you know the lore a little bit, there's no one in the right here. These people got kicked off their own shit because they were just suffering from success, I guess. However, with this mentality, the Helghast essentially just became space Nazis, honestly. And, you know, they really did like to show us how much they've been drinking from the dark side Kool-Aid from this. Honestly, they were just vicious and just doing the most heinous shit, which is even made me had to look back like, what the fuck? Killzone 2 to 3 was peak Killzone for me. The story took a backseat as you invade Helghan, battle for survival, and win against incredible odds fighting against a force that is extremely competent in what they do. Trying to kill you. I could be here all damn day talking about the amazing battles, missions, set pieces of 2, and the guerrilla warfare and uphill battles you go through in 3 that were honestly pretty enjoyable. But remember when I said franchises rise and fall? This is where we enter Shadowfall. Oh boy. Alright, let's let's talk about this one. Alright, let's give a hypothetical scenario, alright? Well, in recent times, I don't think it's really hypothetical besides the end part. But all right, cool. Let's go along with it. Imagine two countries fighting each other tooth and nail, fucking each other up. Then one side renders the other side's home country unfit to live in. Would you A, leave them to their fate? B, arrest every single one of them and send them scattered among the stars, among the colonies, whatever, right? Or C, split your country down the fucking middle and give them one half of it and expect them not to go to war with you or try some shady ass shit. If you chose C, then dear God, what have you done?
What?
Now, all joking aside, I think a big reason why Shadowfall failed narratively was because no one really believed that anyone would split their planet down the fucking middle to give it to a hostile force or a previously hostile force. Look at the opening mission. The opening mission was the Helghast moving in and essentially killing anyone who didn't obey when they took over. It also doesn't make any sense to do this since they already had incidents of terrorism attacks 100 years prior with Helghans on the planet, right? Don't know if they just wanted to say show how history can repeat itself, but you know, this history wouldn't be able to repeat itself like this if this dumbass decision wasn't made to split the planet down the middle, for God's sake, to give it to these people who have essentially made war crimes just their most fun hobby. The story itself wasn't that bad. It just didn't feel like Killzone to me, personally. It just didn't feel like Killzone to me. It went from fighting against a force that is stronger, faster, smarter, and have better tech than you, made just specifically to kill you, to just being a spy, and honestly not a good one. Like, look at how the game is. Like, casually both sides just trade each other spies and shit that were caught on their side. You literally get caught in the game twice. Like, one of the opening missions when you're an adult, I'm pretty sure, in the game, was you being traded back to your people. Like, what the fuck? You can definitely feel the fatigue from the devs, as nothing really was an improvement gameplay-wise besides enhancements taking advantage of the PS4's gimmicks. Remember, this game came out in 2013, so did the PS4, so this game was used to help show the gimmicks with the controller, just like Infamous Second Son, but I feel we're more in the way in a gameplay perspective in Shadowfall. Don't get me wrong, the gimmicks didn't break the game for me, it just felt like kind of out of the way, honestly, where like everything I do was needed to use the controller for its gimmick, like interacting with something. I did like the concept of a robot helping me out, but adding enemies that kind of force me to use the robot to EMP them just so I can damage them to kill them was kind of eh. And the whole zipline aspect, I just didn't really care much for it until like I had to use it to traverse, so I didn't really care much for it. Honestly, thank God, time to kill was shortened, which was nice, since before it felt like I was shooting Wolverine in the fucking face and he just wouldn't fucking die. So I was just looking at these Hellgas like, what the fuck are these bastards made of? I put 3 clips in them. What the fuck? The movement and shooting was a bit sluggish. Like, I felt like I was still in Killzone 3 when I just couldn't really move much and I was just going down, you know, a linear path just to go ahead and just meet more Hellgas, which wasn't the case here because it was way more open than what Killzone was, but it just didn't feel right to me, if that makes sense. The missions didn't feel like Killzone to me, but more like the devs from Black Ops came in, just took control of Guerrilla for a game. Like, it was, like, I can definitely see this type of, like, mission, like, these type of missions and stuff like that in Black Ops if they just went ahead and just said, yeah, we're in space now, and, you know, we're just going ahead and trying to stop it, like, terrorism. It felt like almost like the plot was of a Call of Duty sort of thing, where you got to stop terrorists, and overall, the terrorists were linked to a whole bigger nation that was thought to be forgotten or whatever. Like, it just felt that way to me, so I just felt like, you know, it just wasn't Killzone at some point. But even with all this, reception to the game was good. But the story was what people were bitching about. Really weren't a fan of it. Like I said before, who the fuck splits a planet down the middle for enemies to be housed in, for them to live in, to govern themselves, when they were previously about to nuke you? When the dust was settled, it seemed like Sony and Guerrilla came to the consensus that the Killzone franchise was, you know, on its way out, as they pulled the plug and shifted focus to something else. The peak of Killzone was Killzone 2 and 3, as narratively and gameplay wise, everything was just so interesting to play and witness. I think it's perfectly fine for a franchise to know when it's time to quit. But now in a world of remakes, I'd love to see a comeback of the franchise, even if, you know, the comeback has nothing to do with the original devs. Honestly, everyone, let's talk about ideas on how to revive Killzone from the dead and have a fucking blast doing it. Let's talk about how the IP could definitely be given to another dev team or like another studio who could remake the franchise like I said before. A full reimagining of the lore, changing things around, and tell the story of the series differently could be really interesting. But hold on, let's not do a DMC here, right? Right, everybody? But more so, let's go into more how Mortal Kombat has been doing things these last few years, right? Where each timeline is essentially its own thing with different everything but the same core conflicts. What about giving the IP to smaller studios to work with and, you know, build up a repertoire between smaller studios to see what they got and, you know, build up a franchise that, you know, it has been dead in the water for about 10 years. What about that? What about that? Hey, what about if we even license the whole franchise out to be animated, made into movies, shows, whatever, right? It would be pretty cool to see, as the universe is rich with conflict and chaos, great for storytelling. Honestly, there's so much they could do here. They could actually make a whole series based off the first Intersolar War. Imagine just playing a Hellgas for once in a story. Well, technically we do play a Hellgas in Shadowfall, but anyways, imagine playing a Hellgas defending their home against the ISA coming in to try to evict you, essentially. That would be incredibly cool. Imagine you're going ahead and playing a whole reimagined Second War. That would be incredibly badass. If people really want to take a crack at the Killzone franchise with a little bit of a Call of Duty flavor to it, they could definitely have it to where in the first war they can have multiple teams just invading these planets where the Helghast, or the Helghans in this case, are trying to defend from them. You can either be the ISA with different teams trying to invade all over the planet from Vecta to Helghan. You know, space battles, because like there's very little space battles in Killzone, which is unfortunate. But it would be incredibly interesting to, pick a side and sort of like, battle each other. That would be incredibly badass in a campaign sort of way where you can go ahead and pick one side, invade the other, or you can be the Helghans and make up a hypothetical scenario if, we're still talking about the original Helghan timeline where the Helghans won and, they liberated Alpha Centauri and, there's nothing the Earth government and everybody could do about it. That would be that would be pretty cool, honestly. Like, Killzone is a lovely franchise that has so much potential. Like, I just want this franchise to be explored more. As you can see, I love this franchise. I want the franchise to return in some way, shape, or form that is just genuinely enjoyable and awesome to see. Am I speaking out into the void, or are there like-minded individuals who would like to see stuff like this coming, right? I love Killzone. I feel like we barely scratched the surface of the franchise, even with Guerrilla at the helm. The games were set during the Second War, but I'd love to see the First War, which seeded the hatred that the Helghast has in the second one. That would be incredibly badass. But I'm tired of geeking out over this whole franchise. Thank you all for watching, listening to me talk about how cool Killzone was, and like I said, geek out about the lore and stuff like that. Really appreciate it. Stay safe and stay healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, and see you guys later. Thank you so much.